Welcome back. All right, there's 5 topics I want to talk about 4 days into the season. We are 4 days into the season. I want to talk about some stuff that we've seen. 5 topics I want to go over. First off, ticky-tack penalties. So we saw this. I really feel like that's how it works in October. Now, I kind of get it. I kind of sort of get it. Preseason, lots of penalties. Early in the season, lots of penalties. And then as the season goes along, the standard for what is or isn't a penalty goes up. But it's frustrating. It's frustrating because you end up with a lot of penalties being called at this time of year, and then later on you don't. And so what's a penalty now isn't necessarily a penalty in April. And I've mentioned this before. It has to be frustrating for fans who are getting into the game. So you've never watched the National Hockey League before. You sit down, you watch a game in October, and you go, all right, so that's a slash, that's a hook, that's all right, cool, all right, got it. And then in March, you're watching a game, and the same thing happens. You're like, no arm went up. Why isn't that a penalty now? Well, the games are more important now, so the penalties, the standard is raised. Why? So it's just one of those things that just it stands out. I've heard announcers talking about it, and it's true, and it happens every year. And it's not that they're enforcing any one penalty this year. They haven't done that in a while. They haven't done that since they cracked down on the board play, which I don't know if they're cracking down on the board, and I mean like boarding and cross-checking into the boards. And we haven't seen that getting cracked down on for years now. So, I mean, at the very least, there's consistency in the inconsistency, right? National Hockey League way. Also, Department of Player Safety. You know, before the season starts, Arthur Kaliev gets 2 exhibition games and 2 regular season games, and I thought, hey, you know, the standard's going to be higher. That might be better for the game, right? It might make it so that guys are less likely to do something that's across the line. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen. There's a certain amount of deterrence, but in the heat of the moment, things still happen. Well, it feels like we're not even a week into the season and the standard's already dropped to where, like the knee on knee last night, I thought, well, that'll probably be a game. I would think that'll, and then it's a fine. So like. There's that. So that happens. So the Department of Player Safety, the standards already gone down. And then there's 2 other things I want to talk about, and these 2 are kind of related. So number 3, and this is something I've already seen on some of the hockey sites, where we're already seeing articles on slow starts and uh-oh, look out, uh-oh. Or, hey, do you think this is how things are going to go? Like, I get it. The Canucks won that game 8-1 the other night over the Oilers. I thought it was a fun game to watch. It's one game. So when I hear that Draisaitl's been asked about, you know, whether or not they're going to bounce back, what's he going to say? Like, when I hear this, well, you know, the Oilers have said they're going to bounce back on Saturday. Well, it's game 2 of 82. What else are they going to say? Yeah, I don't know, we're screwed. That game somehow has eliminated us from the playoffs. I blame it on Bill over here. Bill, you suck. Like, It's just one of those things where it's like, well, and I'm not saying they shouldn't ask those questions, but obviously the answer from the players is going to be that they're going to bounce back. It's just that kind of inane stuff that I think, well, I wouldn't put that in a news video, so I'm not sure how it ends up in a news article on websites and stuff, because it's not news. Every player in the league right now after a loss will tell you, yes, we're going to bounce back. Yeah, we're excited about this season. We think we're going to make the playoffs. All 32 teams are going to tell you that, because for the players, it's really important. Like, for the players, it's important to have that mindset. Even if you're on a team that's in a rebuild, have that mindset that you're going to push towards a playoff spot. So I'm not saying this is like a joke to kind of mock the players. Just, it feels like, there's got to be another way to come at it. But again, the inane stuff that I'm seeing when it's only 1 or 2 games into the season, once you get up to about 10 games in, then we can start saying, and if a team is like 0-4 out of the gate or 0-5, that's a storyline. That's something that I could definitely do videos on and stuff, but 1 or 2 games is not quite enough. There's not quite enough information there. And again, all the Oilers had an off night in Vancouver. It happens. Everybody has a rough night, and you got to pick yourself up. And the good news is that last season in 32 losses, I think it was 32 losses, the Oilers only lost 8 in regulation after a loss. So I don't think they necessarily lose tomorrow. But anyways, and then there's some commentators, and this is something that kind of gets me. And the funny thing is, my wife came into my room here while I was watching games the other night, and she asked me, she said, "Did you hear what this announcer said?" And I said, "No." And she basically said, he said this player is clearly going to have a bounce back from last year, and it was the first period of game 1 out of 82. So I admire the confidence. I like the confidence. I like the idea that, oh, well, yeah, no, he's bouncing back. Look how intense he is here. Yeah, it's game 1 out of 82, and so it might be a little bit early to come to the conclusion that, and I get it. Like, there's players I want to rally around, like Brock Besser. Good example for me would be Brock Besser. He gets 4 goals in his first game. I'm not planning on him scoring 50. I'm not even planning on him scoring 40. I'm just glad he got off to a good start, that we won't be hearing about him going goalless to start the season, and hopefully that helps his confidence. They keep him where he is in front of the net, and he has a good year. And that's as far as I'll go with it. I've always liked Brock, though. People know this. I have 3 Brock Besser jerseys. So, but it's a little early to be saying, well, clearly this is going to be a bounce back. I think you have to wait until at least Halloween before we get into who is or isn't on a bounce back run. There will be players who 5-6 games into the season have really good scoring totals that will not be in the top 100 scorers at the end of the year. And there will be players who have a tough first 5 or 6 games who will be amongst the top 100 scorers at the end of the year. So it ends up being a little early. I think part of it is that, there's all that dead air. Like I actually said to Yvonne the other night too, I kind of felt bad for announcers who in between the first and second period of the first game have to do all of this analysis where they have to get all the replays going and because at times you're looking for fault and this is wrong and it's like it just feels like it's a bit early, and it has to be tough for them in some cases to come up with enough footage. There's games too early in the season where there's not much going on, and I'm thinking good luck in between periods talking about that, guys, because nothing happened. And you'll even hear the announcers during the period talking about that. Well, it's kind of a slow period of hockey. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about, people have wanted me to talk about this in a news video. I feel like it's a topic of conversation a lot. So the NHL comes out and tries to here's how I see it. They don't want any controversy this year. They've banned any jerseys in warm-ups. There are no specialty jerseys in warm-ups. And they said, you know what? We'll ban the tape too. Players have come out and said that they're going to have the tape on their stick. I get asked my opinion. I have the tape on the sticks that I use. So the fact that I have rainbow tape on my sticks, and if you watch any of the meetup videos over the summer, I am almost always using a stick that has rainbow tape on it. I did not get fined by the National Hockey League. I haven't heard from Gary yet. His picture's over my shoulder, though. I might. But the interesting thing to me is it feels like the National Hockey League is the only league that, in trying to avoid controversy, and clearly what they're thinking is, we don't want any of this year. We don't want any controversy, so we'll just tell the players none of them are allowed to do this, and they've created more controversy. So only the National Hockey League can create controversy by trying not to have any. It is one of those things that the National Hockey League is quite good at, and yeah. I don't anticipate fines, but if there are fines for players using tape, I don't care. If they want to use it, they can use it. If they don't want to use it, they don't have to. It's not a big deal. It's really not a big deal. But again, it ends up being blown up because if the NHL hadn't said anything, we just would have had guys using tape and other guys not using tape. And nobody would have said anything. It's only in warm-ups. It's only in warm-ups. It reminds me of when Carolina, when they started having the storm surge. That's after the game. And it was only seen by Carolina viewers usually. Usually other channels were, going to whatever else. They don't want to show the storm surge. But then it started being controversial. People were like, they're not respecting the game and this is a joke. And so all of a sudden it became this big deal. Well, they still do the storm surge. Nobody cares. It doesn't matter. The Canes do the storm surge every time they win. It's kind of a tradition now, and nobody cares. And so if the NHL hadn't said anything, they just would have used tape, and nobody would have cared. It really wouldn't have mattered. But here we are. So at any rate, it's the National Hockey League. I do expect there will be controversies during the season because that is going to happen. And I will be here to report on things when they take place. But again, the whole tape thing, I really felt like it was kind of overblown, and I thought, players are just going to use it anyways. They're not worried about a fine. The NHL is not going to fine them like $100,000 or suspend them or anything. It'd be the same as Department of Player Safety. And we've already established those fines do nothing. So at any rate, there you go. Just 5 topics I wanted to cover. The preview for tomorrow's games will go up early in the morning. I'll record it tonight. So look forward to that early in the morning. But hey, thank you guys so much for all your support as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. It means a lot. It's been a really, really good first 4 days of the schedule. And looking at the NHL app, I'm also going to throw this in here because it's not something we're seeing already. But the NHL app, I've said this in other videos too, it is more useful now to go to the NHL.com website than the app. I think the app got changed in part because now they show betting odds on everything. So I turned that off, but I still have to deal with the stupid user interface. And yeah, I'm not a fan. The number of times that it won't load things or it doesn't show me the information I want. I actually go to the NHL.com site, which shows me all the information I want. And oddly enough, it still shows all the betting odds and everything. So I've actually been debating about whether or not to delete the app altogether. Just say, you know what, this app does not work for me. I haven't done it yet. And so that may happen, and if it does, I'll let people know because, yeah, it's just one of those things. And again, maybe it's controversy out of nothing because it's the National Hockey League, so why not? All right, thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.